Today in the bunker, we're going to make a radio station suitable for the Wasteland. Now, this is one of the classic Bachmann Plasticville kits. Some of these older ones have some weird markings. This is O scale, but then it says it's for use on HO scale, so I don't know what happened there, but that was a feature of some of the kind of mid-range production. The kit itself comes packaged in these plastic bags. This one's complete. It's a new old stock kit. So let's bust that open and see what we have. This is your standard Plasticville construction. It's just to put the tabs together, put a little bit of glue on there to hold them permanently. These are meant to be either done permanently or you can take them apart and put them in a box. One note on this one, the way the roof is constructed, it goes on, and then the sign, we're going to have to connect that to the roof because otherwise it won't easily come off. So that's minor modification, no big deal. The radio antenna, it's two parts. It slides together that way, and then there's a top piece. And then with our door, there's also like a light that goes on top. And there's the base for the antenna. So we're going to trim these pieces a little bit, put them together. One note, if you can get these with the sprues are a really nice diameter for other projects, so save those. And let's get this put together. All right, so here it is put together. I've glued the signage to the roof, so that's all one piece. And I just took some medium weight chipboard and used some PVA to make a kind of a floor in there. You could make a base with texturing around there. I've done that on some of my earlier projects. It's up to you. This makes it a little more versatile as far as where I set it, but there's no wrong answer there. So we're going to let that dry, and then we'll move on to the next step. One note on this, the doors are clear plastic. I went ahead and put them in. We're going to paint them like they're metal. Sometimes on projects, I'll glue some like fly mesh to the back, window mesh, to make it look like reinforced glass. But I've done that on a couple of projects, and I sort of want to mix it up a little bit with this one. So we're going to paint that like it's metal. A couple of things about the antenna. Once it's on its base, you notice it's got this little tab here. That's meant to engage in a little hole in the side of the building. Now when I put a floor in, obviously that's not going to work anymore. So I'm going to cut that tab off. We're going to add a little bit of a base, a textured base to this to give it a little more stability. The top portion of the antenna slides in here like this. That's completely optional whether or not you want to glue it. It's probably easier to transport it if you could take it apart, but if you use the right kind of box, you could just lay it down. So not a big deal. No wrong answer there. And then for the very top, there is a kind of a light, almost looks like a lamppost sort of light that goes at the top. You could use that, or you could scratch build something else that looks slightly more modern. Since we're going for that retro future look, then I'm just going to use the one that comes in the kit. Now here I've cut out kind of an irregular chipboard base to mount this to. You could mount it or make it square or linear. I tend to make them a little more organically shaped. Again, no wrong answer. I'm going to cut or coat both sides of this, with PVA glue. One side first, let it dry. It'll warp a little bit. Then I'll coat the other side, let it dry. That'll flatten it back out. And that way when we put our sand and whatnot on there, it won't warp again. After that dried for a bit and kind of leveled itself back out, I went ahead and glued the antenna base down with PVA, and then put a thin coat around there and just put on some rough sand. And you could do that as fine or as rough as you want. If you end up with any bald patches kind of like that, we're going to cover that up with some dead grass or some little tufts or whatever. So don't be afraid to go ahead and just do it on there. You don't have to spend a lot of time on it to make it look really good. So we'll let this dry, and then we'll get it primed. And here it is primed. I just used a kind of a medium gray color on the interior and exterior of the building. And then for the antenna, I did a dark brown because that'll be kind of a rusty metal sort of thing. We'll put some color on there, red and white, whatnot, and we'll paint that as concrete. and then do our regular ground cover. All right, so the initial paint that I've put on here, I just used craft paint, a combination of white and some reds, a very bright and a very dull red, and then added a little bit of nutmeg for kind of a rusty color. Still have to do the ground cover and everything. That was like a dark gray and a light gray. The light gray just kind of stippled on for a concrete effect. And then for the building, just again basic colors, mixed up a brick red using that dark red and some nutmeg brown, and made a nice brick color, and then went in and picked out individual bricks. You really can't see them though. And then this, I did a coat of the gray and then just sponged on white, so it looked kind of like old chipped paint. I still have to do the windows. I'm going to do those in a dark gunmetal and then rust them. Same thing with the logo on here. I used a dark red and then picked out some bright red so it looked like it was kind of chipped. And then just did black on the top, and I'm going to dry brush this with kind of a tan color, sort of or maybe a gray, give it kind of a gravel roof look. And then I'm going to make a sign. This says Plasticville television station. I'm going to make a sign that goes over it because I want to use this as a radio station. But you could certainly use it as a TV station. That would be no problem. And I'm also going to rust up the doors and add some staining details and whatnot. But it's fairly straightforward. These paint up very well. So after a bit of painting, it tarts up pretty well. I added a few signs, one for the Conrad program, one for the radio station. And I just mounted those. I printed those off on the printer. I mounted this one on some chipboard and just smothered both sides of it with Mod Podge. Put some Mod Podge on the back of this, let it dry, then put some on the front. That fairly effectively will seal it. And not too bad. The antenna, we did the ground cover was a prime of dark brown. Then I did a coat of nutmeg, and then went back with some maple sugar tan, just kind of a yellowy tan, and dry brush it, and then add some dead looking static grass and little tufts. And the antenna itself, the light at the top was really clean looking. So I added some strong tone, Army Painter strong tone to it to really dirty it up. So I think that helps sell it. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with that. So there it is, guys, our completed radio station for the Wasteland. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it inspires you to make something awesome, and I hope you have a fantastic day.